sky at night. Take me home. Haunting road.
The summer of '99, Dave Bassett came to the club. We've recently spoken to Harry, well, one of our lads has, and he had high praise for you. What was your initial reaction to Dave's arrival?
I knew Dave a little bit because Dario Gradi was a really good friend with Dave. Dario had tried to get me from Middlesbrough to Palace and brought Dave up to a reserve game to watch me play for Middlesbrough. And in the end, Dave didn't do anything with it. Or it might be Sheffield United at the time, I don't know, but he didn't do anything with it. And then obviously when Dave came, he'd introduced himself. We'd had a couple of chats, but I'd heard little stories as the season went on. I don't know whether I was sub for the first game, his first league game.
You know, one that sticks out for me, Craig, I'll be honest with you, the game that sticks out for me, and I'm going to ask you about it, but Walsall away sticks out for me.
Walsall away when I was sub.
Yeah, and their goalkeeper was sent off after 10 minutes, and, you know, we did turn it around and 2-1 up, and then 3-1 up, I think, by the time he made the triple substitution, you Appleby, and I think, can't remember who else came on.
I think it was 1-1. I think it was 1-1 when I came on.
Yeah, and then you came on.
1-0, we were getting beat. I don't know. It was...
We were screaming for you to come on, I remember that. And nobody could understand why. And then you definitely proved your point when you came on that day, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing in that, I think that was later on. I don't know how late that was in the season.
April. It was April, yeah, which is balmy, really, because he knew what you were all about, didn't he, then, by that time?
Yeah, so. I mean, I think at the time he was trying to save me. He was trying to keep me from not getting injured. And I could understand that because at the start of it, when Dave came in, I was excited because Dave's got a great reputation in the game. I wanted to work with him because players who played with him loved him. You know, he was a real players manager, but very knew what he wanted. Very straight, and I'd heard little stories that he was trying to sell me, and that was early on. You know, I'd been sub, and I was this, that, and the other, and I just said to him, "Look, I've heard these stories. If you want me to go, just let me know, and I'll go, and I'll go and find a club if you want me to." And he said, "No," he said, "No, I don't know where you've got that from." He said, "It's rubbish." And I said, "Right, okay." And I just wanted to clear the air and get it out the way.
Yeah.
I didn't score, I don't think, that season for the first 6 games. It was the Portsmouth game where we beat them 6 that I got my first goal that season. And then after that, it just, you know, I was okay again. I was back scoring, and the team was doing really well. And then I think come the end of the season, Dave was trying to protect me, and he'd actually said we played, the last game might have been against Crewe.
Yeah, it was. I remember that, yeah.
And Crewe could have went down. And Dave said to me, "Look," he said, "we're playing Crewe." Obviously, Dario was manager. "They might go down if we win." He said, "We're in the playoffs." He said, "It's up to you whether you want to play or not." He said, "But I'd rather you didn't." So I said, "Well, listen, I don't want to play then," because it was Crewe and I didn't want to. And the way it was going, I was having one of them spells where every game I thought I'd score. Yeah, and you don't have them often as players, but that full season, I thought I was going to score every game. And so he said to me, "Get yourself away to Tenerife." So I ended up in Tenerife for 4 days before the playoff final, or before the playoff semis.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant, man management. Brilliant man management. I went away, recharged my batteries, come back, felt fresh as a daisy, and then was ready to go again for the playoff semis and the final.
Yeah. That season's remembered fondly by supporters. Me and my mate were talking about it the other day, actually, how this side is that side that you played in 99-2000, probably the last great side Barnsley had. I know they had the Wembley victories in 2016, but you look at that side, John Curtis, Matty Appleby, Craig Hignett, Nicky Eden, Darren Barnard, you know, Mike Shedden, Neil Shipley, Bruce Dyer, Jeff Thomas, Kevin Miller, lots of good players. You miss a few out, obviously. It was great. Moses. Yeah, Eddie Moses, Chris Morgan. Great football, attacking, score more than you, one more than you mentality. That's what we used to say in the stands. That's what it was like under Dave that year. To watch it was brilliant. What was that team like to play in?
Great. We were all, there was no cliques. There was no little groups. Everyone was together. Everyone was really open and honest with each other. They were all good pros, you know, people like Eric Tinkler and people like that, Robbie van der Laan.
I'm going to say missed Robbie then, yeah, because Robbie played up front for him for a while as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was important in some games, and he missed the playoff final, obviously, and that was a blow to us. But that team was really together, had a really good team spirit. There was no big time Charlies in it. They were all good pros. You know, Jeff Thomas was obviously been there and done it. I knew Jeff from days at Crewe. A great lad and a great captain. You know, someone who you could see why he was captain of the clubs he'd been at. Really good at getting everyone together and being fair with everyone. You know, everyone was fair with each other. We'd want the best for the team, and if we had to push each other, we would. And there was different people who responded to different things, but on the whole, the team spirit and the bond and the camaraderie of them lads was probably the best I've seen in football.
Yeah, you mentioned there, Craig, it was a slow start to the season. Something Dave spoke about as well when we spoke to him the other week. When did you and the players realise that things were starting to click and that something special could come out of the season?
I don't know, really. As a player, you just
Dave spoke about you beat Stockport away and went on a bit of a run, drew a game, won another 3 after you'd been hammered at Ipswich, and then he said he sort of saw things take shape.
I think it was around Christmas time. We played around Christmas time and done really well. We'd had 2 games. I think we played Walsall at home and Grimsby away.
Great game, the Grimsby one. I remember that. We were there.
Yeah, we scored a load of goals. I think I scored I think it was a last minute winner against Walsall. I might have scored 3, hat-trick at Walsall or 2. It was a dipping volley over the keeper, which is one of my favourite goals I've ever scored. And
somebody's put that in group chat today, asking his favourite goal, because I've said the 4th at Birmingham's always my favourite because of relief in your face and emotion at game.
Well, I knew that was tie over.
Yeah.
At 3, it might not, but at 4, I knew the tie was over because I knew we were going to score in the other game. And as it turned out, I think we got beat 2-1, but we were 1-0 down, and then Bruce had scored in the second half, and I knew that the tie was over at 4. Birmingham were never going to come and score 4 against us.
No.
So that's probably my favourite, that for Barnsley.
Yeah.
That or the cup final one, obviously the playoff final one.
Yeah.
But the results always rankles with me again.
Yeah.
With the playoff final one, because we got off to a great start. Ipswich were a bit of a bogey team that year. We played really poorly against them twice. We got battered at their place 6, I think.
Then lost 2-0 at home. Dave spoke about that. He said they ended up being pivotal games. Just as if we'd have got something out of those 2 league games, we might have finished second. He sticks those 2 results.
Many points in it.
No.
Yeah, there wasn't many points in it.
No.
And we'd had a couple of dodgy ones, I think, near the end of the season. But it was, I think that Walsall one. And then we went to Grimsby and beat them comfortably and played really well.
Yeah.
So I think then around Christmas time, we knew that we had half a chance of maybe going promotion automatic. Because we knew we had a good side.
Yeah, Dave spoke about Mike Sheridan around Christmas time. I've just been listening back to the audio because we're clipping it in parts and things and releasing it bit by bit. But he spoke about Mike and how he came back into the team around Christmas time. And he had that bit of class about him. Had a slow start at Barnsley, but another good player, wasn't he?
Really good player, clever player, Mike.
Yeah. Good
finisher, good movement. He was really clever. His movement was really good. He would pull off people and then dart in behind people. He was a really clever footballer and could score goals. And again, he came in. He was in and out the side a little bit because obviously Neil Shipley had come and Ships had done brilliant.
Yeah.
Again, he was scoring goals as well. So we had goals in the team all over it. But when Mike came in, it was important. He was real good quality to bring on. You know, if you had a Mike Sheridan who was substitute, then you were doing something right because he'd have got in any other championship side. And like I say, he was really unselfish as well. He had great vision, great awareness of people around him. And I think he laid a few goals on for me as well with his vision and passing ability. So Mike again was another top player who probably didn't get the credit his play deserves.
No, probably not. I think you're right with that, Craig. Dave Bassett spoken in the past about being beaten up by Birmingham City earlier in the season. He called it 3-0 at St Andrews. So he said a change of tactic was decided upon for the playoffs in the close season. How meticulous was that? And were the lads on board quickly to the idea of a formation change heading into that semi-final first leg?
Yeah, I think we played a 5, didn't we?
He 3 with wing backs, and he put you in, as he put, I put Iggy in the owl, as he said. So
well, we knew we were playing like that. We had about a week, I think, to prepare for it, and we'd done some work on it. A few of the lads were all right because obviously Darren Barnard, Nicky Eden had played wing back the season before that, and knew how to play it inside out. We had Morgs who played centre half. I think Brownie had come by then on loan from Blackburn. Keith Brown. Was it Tuttle as well? Not Tuttle.
Steve Chettle. Yeah,
Steve Chettle had played Chet. So we had some good players. Morgs had just come through and was doing brilliant. And Chet's obviously kept them all where they should be. Who was the real old head there. And it really threw Birmingham. You know, he gave me a bit of license to go wherever I wanted, and that suited me down to the ground. I never liked being pigeonholed. You know, there was times I'd played out on the right, and I was asked to do a job, which I did, but it never really, you know, it didn't get the best out of me, I felt. But that game, he just put me in behind and said, go where you want and just do what you want. But when we lose the ball, just come back and help the lads out in midfield if you can.
Yeah.
And it worked a treat. I mean, Shipp scored a goal early, great strike. And we never looked back after that. You know, Bruce was absolute tortured them all game.
Well, Dave spoke. He said Trevor Francis pulled him after the game and said, "You've done us up like a kipper. We were expecting a 4-4-2, and you've completely just flummoxed Birmingham."
They'd have probably worked on it. They'd have probably expected a 4-4-2, and if their preparation was anything like ours would have been, they'd have been meticulous about, well, the ball goes out here. This is where I want you. But they couldn't because we weren't where they thought we'd be. So their game plan actually they were on the fly. They had to try and work it out as the game was going on. And it was, if you think about it, it's great by Dave. You know, it was really clever. It took some bottle, but obviously when you see in the first game, if he felt we got beat up, I mean, I can't remember the first game.
Lost 3-0.
Yeah.
Away. Yeah.
But if he felt we got beat up, he obviously had good reason to think that. So to do that in the second one was a masterstroke, really. And like I say, it flummoxed them. They didn't know what to do. The only problem we had that day was trying to get off the pitch quick enough before
I can remember we had to try to get to coach quick enough at full time as well when you're on back row.
Yeah, well, it was a nightmare because the tunnel was right in the corner.
Yeah,
and,
I remember.
And the referee had said to us, "Look, get yourselves over this side of the pitch. I'm blowing up now."
Yeah,
and you could see all them waiting to come on. So I was gone. I was off. But I think most of us got in without getting anything too bad.
No, definitely not. Personally, Craig, I'd put that result up at St Andrews up against any Great Barnsley game I've seen. At what I said earlier, didn't have 14-year-old by then. And you're just starting to get into going to football. It's more about the day out at that age. When you're little, it's about watching the football, but the day out as you get a bit older. And it was superb. What was the game like to play in? And at 4-0, was the excitement of having one foot at Wembley starting to seep into the players while you were on the pitch?
I think the game to play in was, if the night before, if you want a game to go anyway, that's how you'd think it'd go, or how you'd want it to go. So for it to go like that was unbelievable for us.
Yeah.
A 3-0, you've always got that doubt. But like I said to you before, when I scored that fourth one, I knew that we'd done it then. So to get 4-0 up away, it didn't matter. They could come and have a really good game and beat us 3-0 at home. You know what I mean? But it was never going to happen.
No.
Yeah, because it would have been a close game. The game at home was always going to be close no matter what. So to have a 4-goal cushion would have been, more than we could have hoped for. It was an incredible day, really.
Yeah.
I just think they, looking at it back and on the day, they looked like they bottled it. They had a lot of people who just lost their nerve, especially when they went one down early and then we scored a second and then a third. I think they just capitulated in the end. And if that game would have went on another maybe 5 minutes or so, we probably scored another couple. But it was just one of them games. And then the one at Oakwell, you've got to approach it properly.
Yeah.
Because 90 minutes is 90 minutes. But I knew as the game was going on and the clock was ticking down, I think they scored about 15 minutes.
Yeah, there's always a nervousness in the crowd, isn't there, that day, obviously. But like you said, the players have got to stick to the guns and stick to the game plan. But yeah, they scored early doors, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think we didn't need to panic, and we didn't, because we had the right type of players. And then when we equalised in the second half, it was almost like, well, the rest of the game doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Because it's done. So we were just, I think, for the last probably 25 minutes of that game, we were just going through the motions. I think players knew it was done, didn't really want to get hurt or didn't want to get injured. And it was just, let's see the game out. I think they scored, I don't know when they scored the second, but it was always going to, peter out the game into a nothing. It was just a case of seeing that 90 minutes out.
Certainly for the players and the fans and management and everybody else connected with the club. We've just spoke about the second leg, so we can move on to Wembley, Craig. Obviously, you spoke earlier, a fantastic start to the game. Was there a belief when your strike went in off the goalkeeper that the footballing gods were shining on Barnsley that season?
I would like to say yeah, but I never thought about it, because we were in the game and you were...
Yeah.
Ipswich, to be fair, at Ipswich, I got man-to-man marked, I think, that game. Matt Holland, it was, I think, who was man-to-man marking me. And to get a goal like that early, when you get man-to-man marked, it sort of it'll put a bit of fear into them.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, they were a good side and we knew they had good players. So when Tony Mowbray, who's, I see up here quite regular, because he lives up here in Middlesbrough. I know he's manager of Blackburn, but I see him now and again. He pops up with a header from a set piece. And the game was finally balanced. And that penalty at half time, it was a turning point. It was a real turning point. If we go in 2-1 up, I think it's a different game. I think at half time they've gone in thinking they've had a right let off.
Yeah.
And we went in thinking, we've missed the right chance there. So we were a little bit deflated, I think, whereas they were a little bit up. It was never a 4-2 game.
No, when you watch the highlights back, actually, it never was a 4-2 game. As a fan, when you're sitting there and Stuart Head's third one in, you think, oh, it's done for. And then obviously you get back into it. Dave spoke about the Aristoff miss from point blank range. And he said that if we'd have got it to 3 apiece, then there were a couple of players in that Ipswich team. They weren't going to do 120 minutes. And he pinpointed Mowbray, Magilton. He said there was no way we would have lost in extra time. And we're obviously armchair quarterbacking, aren't we, a little bit here? But he said that there were no way in hell Ipswich would have turned Barnsley over in extra time. I
don't think they would have. We had a really fit side. I think we were a little bit naive at the back, if I'm honest. Particularly that game. But if we'd have got back to 3-3, and Georgie, really, if Georgie heads it anywhere else, anywhere down, it's a goal. I think he just tried to get a really good connection on it. But if he heads that down, it's a goal. There's no way in the world. And I think Richard Wright got man of the match, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So if he heads that down and we get to 3-3, having come back from 3-1, there's no way Ipswich are turning that round. And like Dave said, we had some fit lads, and we had some fit lads to come on as well. I'd fancy us, if we'd have got back to 3-3, I'd have fancied us desperately, but it wasn't to be that day. And it was, I remember being so deflated after that, because I felt like we'd had a real chance. It was fine margins that day. The big turning points in the game went to Ipswich, not us.
Yeah. Dave spoke about plans changing that summer, young players coming through, you Brian O'Callaghan's, etc. John Parkin, Rory Fallon, less money to spend. It's a season that in the end you weren't a part of as you left Oakwell for Blackburn Rovers. Was that a case of the club moving you on for financial reasons, or did you request a move, or was it a bit of both?
I think it was, I didn't want to leave. I wanted the club to get promoted and for me to be in the Premier League with Barnsley.
Yeah.
I knew there was interest, and I knew that Dave had said to me, look, we need to get promoted, otherwise. He was honest with me, Dave. He was always dead straight, and I really appreciated him for it.
Yeah.
So I think Everton were the first, I think, to show interest, and I think being from Liverpool and my dad being a big Evertonian, I'd have loved to have played for Everton for my dad really. My dad's no longer with us, but it would have been great for me to play for Everton just for him and to play on Liverpool where I'm from, you know, to play at one of the big clubs there. But unfortunately, it never quite happened. Everton at the time didn't have the money. Blackburn had a lot of money, and Dave needed money. So again, Graham Souness was a childhood hero of mine. So it would have had to be special. I turned Fulham down. I could have went to Fulham with John Tagana and been put up in a Harrods apartment and have all that, but never really fancied London.
No.
So Blackburn was the obvious choice in the end when I knew Everton couldn't afford it. I chose Blackburn because of Graham Souness, really.
Was there a regret then, Craig, at leaving Barnsley, or did you feel that the time was right for you to move on? Obviously, you've missed out on promotion and giving it your all that season.
Yeah, I think I was disappointed. I wanted to be in the Premier League, and I wanted to go with a club that had the real chance of getting in the Premier League if I wasn't going to a Premier League club. I knew the situation at Barnsley, and I knew what Dave had to work with the next year. And I think Dave lost his job, didn't he, the year after?
About November time, he lost his job, I think. Yeah.
So that, for me, that was disappointing because I knew Dave had offers to go to other places as well.
To Blackburn, after he'd been at Barnsley 3 months, actually. He spoke about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he'd been there before me, so...
yeah.
I might have been there quicker, you don't know. But, yeah, so that was disappointing for me, but it's sort of, you always have a tinge of, have you done the right thing when you leave a club, especially with how happy I was at Barnsley and how settled I was and how much I loved playing there. And it was like home, you know. For the short time I was there, it was like home because I loved every minute of it. I loved the setup, loved the training ground where it was, and loved playing it at Oakwell. And obviously the club was getting developed more and more as we were being there. The changing rooms, obviously, when I was there, it was the old changing rooms, and then he'd moved to the new ones, I think, just after I'd left. But we knew that was happening. So you'd always leave with a tinge of, you know, have I done the right thing or have I not? But, I mean, I can't complain because I went to Blackburn, had a really good, nearly 4 years I was at Blackburn as well, won a cup, won the Carling Cup, obviously got promoted in my first season. But it didn't start well for me there because I got an Achilles injury and missed the first 3 months of the season when I first signed.
Wow.
But then after that, when I got in, a great squad, great set of lads, and won a cup. So I can't, you know, I'd never regret going to Blackburn. We got promoted first season, had a great season in the Premier League, finished 6th, played with some great players again. Andy Cole, Dwight York, two guy, Damien Duff, Keith Gillespie was there. You know,
Wardy was there, wasn't he?
Wardy was there. Although Wardy had got, I think me and Wardy, every time I go to a club, Wardy moved. So I went to Blackburn and Wardy ended up moving somewhere else. But we had some great players. Nathan Blake was there, you know, good lad, good friend. Henning Berg. We had so many good players. Lucas Neal, Stiggen Bjornby, Brad Friedel.
Wow.
Craig Short. It was a brilliant squad of players. And like I say, we finished 6th in the Premier League that year. So, and then won a cup. So I would never, I don't regret my time at Blackburn at all. And in hindsight, with Harry leaving in November, I'd have been gutted with that. And the way he had to bring the kids through as well. At that time, I wanted to finish my career in the highest league and felt that if it wasn't Everton, that Blackburn was as good a club as I could go to.
Well, you'd earned that right as well, Craig, throughout your career to make your choices, hadn't you? So I just want to finish up.
You never want to, because I have such a great relationship with the Barnsley fans and I had such a great relationship with them, like I do with the Middlesbrough fans.
Yeah.
You don't want to upset them. And sometimes it's hard when you move a club. You know, I've got nothing but, I just want good things for Barnsley because I had such a good time there. And it saved me. Because at the time at Aberdeen, I was at such a low place in my career and in my life, really. And I wasn't enjoying it. And Barnsley brought all that back.
Yeah.
So I've got Barnsley to thank for so many things that the last thing I wanted to do was upset supporters and make them think I wasn't loyal or I wasn't. I didn't want it to be like that at all. So it was difficult for me, but I think I think looking back now, the Barnsley fans are still great with me. So that's one thing, good thing that's come out of it. There's always a couple who'll have a go at you because you've moved and you might be getting more money and what have you, but it was never a money thing. It was always I want to end my career as high as I can.
Yeah. We'll just finish up then, Craig. Obviously, your thoughts on Norman Rimmington with your time at the club, obviously recently passed, well, a couple of years ago, passed away.
Yeah.
What are your memories of Rimmo?
Rimmo was a proper legend. It's funny because when I was injured, I would go and sit with Rimmo and we would talk. He'd be doing his bits and bobs around the ground and we would talk. And the one thing about Rimmo is he always told it like it was.
Yeah. Never
sugarcoated anything. Was straight as a die with you. If you were playing crap, he would tell you, look, I think you're playing crap. You need to sort yourself out. And he would always tell you the truth. So I'd always go to Rimmo and find out, because the one thing he did was he loved where he come from. He was unbelievably proud of where he come from. But more than that, he loved the football club like no one I've ever seen before. He was so Barnsley that he would tell you anything. You would go and ask him anything and he would tell me the honest truth. So I always valued talks with Rimmo, and to lose someone like that, even though he wasn't involved directly in the day-to-day bits, but to lose someone like that, the whole club felt it and the whole town felt it, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest compliment I can pay him. He was an unbelievable man, dead straight, had scruples, but was unbelievably passionate and proud of where he come from in the football club. And that rubs off onto people. When you talk to him, you can't help but be enthused about what he loves about Barnsley and what he loves about the football club. So he adds to all that. And it's characters like that aren't around today. And you'll never get another Norman Rimmington because he was a one-off.
Perfect place to finish. Craig, thank you so much for your time. If you happen to watch the semi-finals, we'd love to get you on for a review of the match as well.
I'd love to. I haven't been able to see them at all.
Well, they'll be on Sky, so that.
Yeah, well, I'll be able to see it on Sky. So I'm interested to see. There was some not kind things said about them, but and that coming from a Neil Warnock side as well, you think, well, what are they doing different that you've never seen before or you're trying to struggle with? So I'm interested to see them and see how they play and see how intense they are. To
be fair, Craig, Wayne Rooney was the worst one with the disrespect.
Was he?
Yeah, didn't like the oofball, but if you look at facts, Barnsley are the fifth. Derby could get relegated. I think what the problem you see now is there's this idea that football's going to be played a certain way, and Barnsley have gone back in time a little bit with how they play. They're playing percentages. He's getting it. I think the manager's idea now is, Craig, he gets it forward, and then Barnsley for the first time ever are scoring a lot of goals from set pieces. The manager's idea is if it's not in our half, we can't be punished by the opposition. When it's in the final half, the players are quick to go down if they get a touch or they get a free kick, and they're pressurising in the channels as well. And it's not being liked by the other teams. And for me, it's worked, hasn't it? The Reading manager said, we'll go again, but we play football the right way. Well, the right way hasn't got them in the playoffs. And for me, I think it's very disrespectful.
There's no right way and wrong way of playing football. You do what works for you with the players you've got. And it's up to other people to stop them playing like that.
It is, yeah.
And if you can't cope with it, then there's a flaw in your team somewhere.
There is, yeah.
So I'm all for you play with what you've got.
Yeah.
And if you do want to play route one and pick balls up and play in the final third, why not?
Exactly,
it's up to you how you play, and it's up to other people to cope with it. You can't moan about it when you get beat by it.
No.
What good is it keeping the ball for 80% and getting beat 1-0 or 2-0?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure. We spoke before, but this has been great to get a chat with your Rovers home like this. Thanks a lot, and all the best with everything in the future. Cheers.
Oh, man, thanks, pal. And if you need anything, you know where I am.
Cheers, Craig. Thank you.
See ya. Ta-da.
Right, brilliant that, Craig. Thank you very much.
All right, no worries.
Cheers. All the best, Craig.
Ta-da, pal.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.